I got to see Buddy 2 weeks early before release date at an exclusive early showing. Oh my gosh, I don't even know where to begin. And yes, this is going to be a completely spoiler-free review of Buddy. Without getting too much into specifics, I'm going to be letting you guys know what my thoughts are about this movie and what you can prepare yourself for on August 28th. Go see Buddy in theaters. So Monday this week, I was checking out the movie showings at my local theater, and one of them was a mystery movie. And I thought to myself, it's possible that it's the Buddy movie. And so I ended up going, and it was. And to be honest, I was really surprised because there's a lot of movies releasing this weekend, and I thought this screening was going to be for one of those, but it turned out to be Buddy. There has been so much hype around this movie lately. And the main reason why I think it's been so hyped up is because of the genre this movie covers. And it's not an easy genre. Nostalgic horror. As many of you probably know from watching the teasers and checking out the It's Buddy's YouTube page, this whole film is centered around a 90s TV kids show gone wrong. And something like that can be very difficult to pull off because most of the people watching are going to be adults, and most of us have all watched 90s kids TV shows. And so the feeling of the movie has to be a specific way because it's something very familiar to each and every single one of us. It needs to have a good story plot. It needs to have great effects. It needs to feel like this movie came from the 90s. And a lot of you have probably checked out the Buddy YouTube channel and have been seeing the little miniature episodes that they've been posting for it. And a lot of us have been thinking they seem to be capturing everything very spot on. And the reason why this is so important is because typically nostalgic horror is based off of real things. For instance, Five Nights at Freddy's is a nostalgic horror based off of Chuck E. Cheese. And a lot of us, when we were kids, were all scared of Chuck E. Cheese, and so it really makes sense, but it has to be done well. And one little thing can throw everything completely off and not make it satisfying. And so that was one of a couple concerns that I had about the movie going into the movie theater to watch it. And also, was this just going to be a cheap story? That was my biggest concern. Well, yes, you can capture the nostalgic horror fine. You have to have a good story to go along with it. And from what I've been kind of seeing, the story, in my opinion, didn't seem like it was going to hold up very well. But I'm happy to report that after seeing the film, both of those things are just fine. First of all, let's talk about the 90s feel. This film embodied 90s nostalgic horror perfectly. It honestly felt like watching the movie that this was made in the 90s. It really did. I mean, even down to certain things, and I can't get into big spoilers here, but they use a lot of puppets in the film. These puppets look so accurate to what a 90s kids TV show would use, and they're using them in like horror scenes. And it was so fun to see that, for them to stay within that boundary of being like, okay, we have to make this look like a 90s kids TV show, instead of being like, okay, we'll make this thing CGI, or we'll, build a realistic looking puppet for this. It doesn't look like that. It looks like a 90s puppet, which I found super, super neat. The cinematography as well, the acting, the soundtrack all feels so much like a 90s kids TV show. And as for the story, I'm happy to report that it's a good story. It's not like great, but it's also not terrible. There's been a lot of theories recently being thrown around about what the story of this movie was about. Some people were thinking it was going to be similar-ish to Five Nights at Freddy's in terms of a guy wearing a suit and attacking people. Other people thought that it was going to be something more paranormal and along the lines of a demon or something more like that. And to be honest, for both of those camps, I wasn't quite satisfied with those storylines. I wanted something unique and new and different, and Buddy delivered. Buddy's storyline is very deep and very complex, and will leave a lot of us theorists theorizing for a long time. This film, in a way, kind of reminds me of the storyline of The Backrooms, where there's a concept, but it's not entirely 100% explained to the viewer, so after the film, you're left with questions still about exactly what happened, and those are my favorite kind of movies to watch. And I know for sure a lot of you will not be expecting the amount of lore that is in this movie. And yes, I'm saying lore. There's a lot, especially towards the end of the film. There was at one point where I wanted to just pause the movie, rewind it, and be like, what is going on here? Because the implications of some of the things that I saw had big implications on the buddy lore, I guess you could say. And so there is a lot of things going on in this story. If you look at it just from the surface value, it's like, okay, that makes sense. But then if you just go one layer deeper, and the movie definitely takes you there, there's a whole nother can of worms that could be opened on what's really going on behind the scenes of this buddy TV show. Now, even though while the story's good, like I said, it's not like great or like the best story in the world. I definitely, even though I compared it to the Backrooms, I wouldn't say the story's as good as the Backrooms. And the main reason because of that is because there are, I would say, two characters we focus on the most in the film. And one of the characters has a pretty important story plot line of the movie that gives us a lot of the lore about the buddy TV show and really what's actually going on. But that plot just kind of ends at a certain point in the film, doesn't go anywhere, and you're kind of left like, we spent all that time learning about that character, meeting that character, and it just kind of ended. And it didn't really do anything to the story. That was my biggest critique about the storyline of Buddy. However, it's not like so terrible that it's unwatchable. But that was just one thing that I did notice that I would have changed about the story. Also, there are a few sequences in the movie that seem to be drawn out a little bit and seem to be a little bit long in places they shouldn't have been. But that's just my personal opinion. I'm sure a lot of other people would disagree with that. It was just something that I noticed that I wanted to mention. But yes, with all of the great effects, a decent storyline, great acting, and an awesome soundtrack, this movie was such just a quirky, fun experience. And yes, I did use the word quirky. This movie is crazy. It's scary in a way. It's funny. It's very quirky. There are multiple times where you in your theater, when you watch the movie, will be laughing at multiple times, like a lot in this movie, because there's just so much going on that you're like, oh my goodness, like, it just feels so weird because it's this 90s kids TV show with like 90s kids TV show acting, and they're trying to stop this killer unicorn. So it's just, there's a lot of quirky moments that are both scary and fun at the same time. So it was an amazing like theater experience. Also, based off of one little thing towards the end of the movie, I think it's safe to predict and theorize that there were going to be possibly 2 more Buddy movies if this one performs well. I can't give away what that thing is that I saw in the movie. I will give a little hint though, and it's not a spoiler. All I'm gonna say is look for towards the end of the film something to do with 3. There's 3. That's all I'm gonna say. And I think it's very safe to assume after seeing what it is, you're like, huh, could we get more of these films explaining and expounding upon the lore of Buddy? Kind of like the Backrooms. The Backrooms ended kind of, there is a story, but you're left with a lot of questions like what's going on, who is doing what here, and it's kind of the same thing with Buddy. You're left kind of asking yourself who, what, where, why, but yet still understanding the main concept of the story, which then can be expounded upon later in some sequels, which I think it's possible we could get. But with that being said, that's only going to happen unless we support this film. Go on August 28th, get your tickets, see Buddy in theaters, watch it multiple times, because I think you will need to in order to get everything out of this movie to possibly theorize on it. And I really hope you all enjoy it. But with that, make sure to check out this video where I go over a pretty interesting theory concerning the Backrooms movie about where the heck is the bacteria in the film. So I'll see you over there. Have an awesome day.